So it's the only one mounted in centric relation. And what it's doing is it's showing you that there is, in centric relation, i.e. your first contact in centric, retruded contact position, is on the upper left 6 medially and lower left 5 distally. And I think this patient's getting TMD symptoms, aren't they? So, and they're a bit of a clencher, a bit of a grinder as well. So in your examination, you've noticed that RCP and ICP aren't coincident, and that the contact is on those teeth. Now, what does that mean? Are you going to do anything about that? Just because the patient's ICP and RCP are not coincident, are we going to panic too much about that? Probably not, because probably 9 out of 10 people don't have an RCP and ICP which is coincident. It usually doesn't cause a problem. If this patient's getting TMD type problems, what we would probably do is give them some exercises, give them some general advice about TMD, try and avoid chewing gum, try and avoid biting your nails, etc., etc. And we'd probably make them a splint as well. Now, you've all had a chance to listen to the TMD lecture symposium type thing, haven't you? Yeah? Good. So, splints generally work quite well for muscular TMD pain. Okay, so in this case, we'd probably just make the patient a splint. Okay, and the splint would recreate more of a kind of ideal occlusion. And for some reason, that seems to work quite well on a lot of TMD cases. All right? It doesn't necessarily mean that occlusion is the cause of TMD problems. There are some people, some dentists, who advocate this and who think it is the case, but it's quite a controversial area, and there's not really much evidence at all behind it. Okay? We don't really know what causes TMD. It's probably multifactorial, and whether or not occlusion is at all associated is really quite controversial. So this case was originally included in here because the occlusion course prior to me running it was quite sort of TMD and headachy related, and there are some, like I say, some characters who strongly feel that if you improve a person's occlusion, it will improve TMD symptoms, it will stop them getting headaches, and it will solve all of their life's problems as well. Probably not true, unfortunately. The suggestion was initially that on this case, because the RCP and ICP aren't coincident, we could do some adjustment to it. So you could adjust that tooth to try to see if we can make RCP and ICP coincident. Would that help the patient if they were having TMD problems? Probably not. Like I say, there's very little evidence behind that. And actually making a splint is much less invasive. Patient can pop it in and pop it out whenever they want to, whenever they get symptoms, without any problems. Okay? If for whatever reason you did decide to do some adjustment, then you want to make sure that you're planning it properly. So you'd want to make sure that you've got your casts articulated in centric relation using a face bow, and that you have a bit of a trial run. So you maybe start to adjust it a little bit and see whether or not that makes a difference. Can you re-establish RCP and ICP being coincident with just a little adjustment here or there on that RCP contact? Now, if you can, maybe that would be a good thing, particularly if you've got a heavy contact on there and you want to maybe take that away from a restoration which is vulnerable to fracture, because those RCP contact points, particularly in Brux's patients, do tend to take quite a bit of a hammering. Okay, so you could do some adjustment and take that RCP contact point somewhere else, and maybe even make ICP and RCP coincident. But realistically, there's probably very little indication for doing that. And if you have a listen at lecture 7, it tells you about occlusal adjustment and equilibration in a bit more detail about what that is, and the controversies surrounding it. So all I'll say for that really is Splint would probably be indicated in that case. Maybe some referral for physio for their TMD, perio if they've got perio problems as well, and realistically probably leaving it at that. Any questions about that one? Right.